Alright guys, happy Sunday, welcome back to the garage. It's about 10:30 a.m. Had a little bit of a lay-in this morning because I was feeling a little stiff and sore from all that sanding yesterday, and possibly lifting that bonnet by myself probably didn't help the situation at all either. Anyway, we're back on this problem that I was having last night, and that is with these two fasteners here, which are obviously not factory. The problem being is that I need this fender vent or duct to be able to float a bit, and the fuse box is preventing that from happening because it sort of overlaps the inside of the vent tube. So I basically need to be able to move this temporarily and then fit the fenders along with the vent tube and then refasten this. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a Rivnut here so I can do that. The only problem is that Rivnut is not going to really hold this scuttle piece tight against the body tub. Now I'm thinking that the Rivnut will probably locate it okay, so it won't move forwards and backwards because there's a bit of a stick out on the Rivnut, and that should locate the actual two holes, and the actual fender should probably keep it from moving in and out. So I think if I can just get it located, I think once the fender's on, that'll probably just keep it in place. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So we're going to remove these fasteners, we'll put some Rivnuts in, and hopefully that's going to solve the situation, and I'll be able to move this this vent tube into the inside of the engine compartment a little bit so I can fit the fender effectively, and then sort of slide the tube around to align with the flanges on the inside of the fender. Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, there are the two Rivnuts installed, and if you've never seen a Rivnut, this is what they look like. I've featured them before on my channel, and they are basically a threaded insert, and you use a special tool to install them. This is the Rivnut tool, and just pretty much works like a normal rivet. It sort of mushrooms out the inside of the fasteners here so it won't pull back through once you push it through, and then you unthread the tool from it. So there we go. So we'll see if this is going to work or not, and you can see now that my tube is sort of more free floating than it was before without that fuse box installed. So that was what we were going for. So let's go ahead now and see if that's going to work for us. Alright, Rivnuts are holding that piece as I suspected they would, and again I'm going to be threading through fasteners which are going to come out a little bit longer as well, so there's no way that this is going to be able to move forwards and backwards once the fender is installed. So that's good. So it must be getting fairly serious as we've cleaned in behind here for hopefully the last time. So we're going to put the J-clips, I guess you call them, onto the fenders. And I've got some new ones. I like the old ones much better than the new style. So we've rescued the old ones and given them a coat of paint yesterday, of some of the old ones anyway that we had. So it'll be a mixture of old and new. I think I'm going to prefer to keep the old ones more for the rear fenders because they are definitely going to be more difficult to put on than the front fenders. So we'll use most of the new ones here. So we've got them broken down into fitting kits for the front and for the rears. So here's everything that we need to install the front fenders on the driver's side, plus a few extras because I had actually had a test fitting kit as well that I've just emptied into here. So whatever I don't use on the driver's side front fender will be for the other, I think for one of the rear fenders that I test fitted as well. So let's get to it. We'll start doing adding the J-clips and hopefully not scratching the paint too badly, but that's kind of inevitable as well on the fresh paint, and putting these clips on where they need to go. Alright, I think it's go time. All the J-clips are on. We've tapped out all the holes where there are regular fasteners. We've added our stud for the bonnet struts. It's probably a good time to do that now because this access to this point is going to get limited now. This is looking good. Everything is clean. So I think we're got our screws ready. So I think we're ready to go ahead and at least try to get the fender mounted. I'm not going to film it as it's going to be a little dicey, I think, trying to get this fitted up with the fresh paint, etc. So we'll use the driver's side as a trial, and maybe, if things go well, we'll film it on the passenger side. Alright, we've got the fender on, and we're just about to take it off again. I'm not happy with the rear fitment here. I've got a bit of a gap. here, which I didn't have before. So I think that sealer bulkhead plate is preventing this fender from going all the way in. So I think we're going to have to do a little bit of trimming as suspected. It was a bit of a bear to get that vent tube lined up within the fender because of the excess paint now. That was a pretty tight fit before, and now it's even tighter, so I'm dreading to have to actually do that again. I was able to do it, but now we're going to have to take the fender off, which means the vent tube has to pull out again. So yeah, I had it fitting not bad, with the exception of this gap back here, which prevented me really from getting the two top fasteners in on the A post here. I could get the bottom one in, but I couldn't get it to push in enough to get the fastener locations lined up for the top two. So obviously I have a problem. So we're going to take it back off. We're going to rectify that. We're not going to take shortcuts at this point and just say that's good enough, because that is not good enough. Even though there is a beading that goes in here, that is too far off, and I know I can get that better. So we're going to take it off and start from scratch. All right, so we got the fender back off, and this is where I believe the problem lies. This is just a little too deep to keep the fender from pushing in all the way, down to about this point here. So we're going to trim this a little bit up to about here, and we'll see if that rectifies our problem. I got under the car, laid on my back, looked up, and the seal is very, very tight along that area, and then it gets to be about normal lower where the bend is. So I think we'll just do a little bit of trimming and do a bunch of refitting and checking to see when I can get the fender flat and get the B-post holes to line up, and I'll know I've got enough grinding work done. So it's going to be on and off with the fender, I'm sure, a couple of times before we actually fasten it for good. All right, so fender's fitting much better now with a little bit of trimming done on that little bulkhead sealer plate. Basically cut off just that much and seemed to pull the fender in just enough. So I've got the B-post fasteners all in now, and we'll be able to close up this gap. That's not tight yet. We obviously still have that beading to put in there, so I think that's the next step. We'll go grab the beading from the house, and we'll bring it out and we'll fit the beading, and we'll tighten down the fasteners on this driver's side fender. All right, here is the beading kit, and it's not black. It is stainless steel, I believe, and that's just a coating on it, probably a nylon piece of tape or whatever that got to be peeled off. So you have the two front beads, the two rear beads, and then you have the two rear valence beads that go down the bottom there at the rear. So we'll unpack these and we'll carefully lay the beading in there without scratching the paint. I've already had some experience doing this on my TR3A, so it can be a little bit tricky if you're not careful. All right, here are the tabs that fit down in the slots in the fenders. So obviously you want to have your fasteners loose but present, and we're going to try to space these between the fasteners and leave them fairly close to the fasteners as far as distance away from the fastener is concerned, because you want a little bit of clamping effort on these little tabs. So these tabs slide along in the channel, so we'll just space them out accordingly and drop them in between the fasteners as mentioned. All right, the first strip of beading has been installed. It is the perfect length, which is great. So it looks good. I haven't bent the tabs under. Usually you can get underneath the inside of the fenders and bend the tabs up to keep the beading coming up, if that makes sense. We'll do that a little bit later on, but it's in there now and fitting pretty well. I have one fastener to add here at the front. You can see where the beading drops through. Now that's probably a little more obvious on my car than it is on normal TR250s, as the inner fenders on this car have had a lot of work, and that's the best I can get it. So I think that looks okay though, no big deal. So that's good. The only other fasteners I need to put in are on the nose. I've got one fastener here at the nose, but that's going to line up perfectly. I also need to put the three fasteners in underneath, which will pull this bottom of the fender in and line it up with the sill perfectly. Need to tighten this up a little bit, and the B-post fasteners, and that fender is effectively on the car. All right, let's move on to the passenger side fender. This one should go a little bit easier because during the test fit I didn't have the same issue with that scuttle piece, so should be good to go there. I do need to put the grill inside the duct, so we're going to do that first. So hopefully we can do a similar job and not scratch that up too badly. So we'll do that, and then we'll clean the area up, and again we'll do the same process. We'll put the J-clips on the passenger side fender, and we will hopefully get this installed within the next hour or two. Alright, passenger side fender is on, and we're just about to apply the beading here. It went on much easier than the, the driver's side did, as suspected it would. So that's looking good, fitting up well, and let's get the beading in. Alright guys, just coming up to 7:30 on Sunday evening, and we've got our jobs accomplished for today. We've got the fenders on pretty much 95% of the way. I'm missing a fastener up the bottom here at the front, and I'm missing 3 fasteners at the sill at the bottom on the passenger side. I'm missing the actual clips that the fasteners fasten into, so that's a bit of a bummer. I'm not sure what happened to those, whether I pulled them out along the way to paint. I don't remember bagging them, so we'll go through the bags and see if we have them laying around somewhere. If not, I may have to order those. Hopefully I don't have to take the fender off to get them installed on the inner sill, but that's just sitting loosely at the bottom right now, but the rest of the fasteners are done up. Did okay as far as the installation of the wing vents are concerned. Didn't have too much damage, not too much obvious damage. There are a few little touch-ups that need to be done, but pretty good on the most part. I still need to do the fastening of the tubes on the inside to the body tub, so that's still got to happen. So there's still some cleanup to do here, but I'm happy that I've got the fenders on, like I said, about 95% of the way. Alright, so next steps are to polish the underside of the bonnet, as I mentioned, and also to coat the interiors of the rear fenders with the truck bed liner so we can start to get those installed. I still also need to color sand and buff this saddle piece. I did not do that yet, so as mentioned previously, we want to get this buffed out so we can bring the, once we get the fenders on, then we can bring out the Surrey backlight and get that affixed to the car. Alright, that's it for tonight guys. We'll see you out here hopefully tomorrow after work. Talk to you later. Alright guys, it's Monday and we're going to leave the front end where it's at for now. We'll come back and revisit that in a little bit. I figured I'd start working on the rear saddle piece since I want to get the rear fenders installed next, and then the backlight after that. So no time like the present, I think, to get this sanded down. So we'll color sand and buff this in preparation for fitting the rear fenders. I still need to prep the rear fenders by doing the interior sides with the truck bed liner, so hopefully that will be later this evening as well when it cools down a bit. But we'll get this sanded out in the meantime in preparation for getting those fenders on. Alright, the rear saddle piece has now been buffed out, and that looks good. Happy with that, came up nicely actually. So I think we can move on now to try to get the rear fenders undercoated. This is kind of in the way over here. It's obviously getting pretty dirty as well. But we'll try to work around it the best we can. I'm not really ready to put that back on the car yet. The underside still needs to be polished, but I'm still not quite ready yet for it anyway. So I'd rather move on to the rear fenders and just leave that untouched for the moment. Alright, first rear fender is up on the table, getting ready to be prepped and scuffed for the bed liner. So we'll do this first, bring the other fender out, we'll scuff that up, and then we'll paint them both with the bed liner at the same time, let them dry, and get ready to put them on the car. Alright, quick update. The first coat of truck bed liner has been applied to the rear fenders. We're just going to wait an hour before we add our second coat, and then we'll unmask it after that. So yeah, we'll wait for an hour, maybe have some dinner, and get back out here after that. Alright, the rear fenders are dry enough to play with now, so we've got our mounting kits. We're just starting to unpack them, and we're starting to put the J-clips along where they need to be. Bottom flange and the top flange, both fenders. In the meantime, while that was drying, I actually got out a few more seals. We've got a new bonnet seal here for the front, and we've got a new trunk seal here on the rear, which cleans things up nicely. So that fits perfectly without any trimming. So I'm happy with that. There's the old seal there. So if the new seal doesn't work, we can always revert back to the old seal, but I think we're going to be okay. So let's get on with it. We'll affix these J-clips, and we'll try to get one of these fenders mounted on the car. Alright, one simple rule. If I show you the car, you're going to have to disregard the rusty brake rotor. It's brand new, it's just surface rusted, so that's the rule. So do you agree to that rule? Alright. It's looking pretty good. We managed to get the rear fender on today, or at least the driver's side rear fender. We've got the passenger side fender just sort of attached with 3 bolts. The driver's side is, I don't know, probably got about 4 or 5 bolts in it. Along the top side, the 3 at the front, the 1 at the bottom, the 3 at the bottom on the rear are all done. So I'm just going to require a little bit of help from Alin to come and give me a hand with his little tiny hands. For the rest of the fasteners along the top, I knew they were going to be a challenge, and I've been talking to Alin about this for the last, I don't know how many months, but he's aware, he's on call as far as those fasteners are concerned. They were a bear to get out, and they're going to be a bear to get in. They're even a little bit more difficult than a normal car would be, a normal TR4, TR4A, TR250, or TR5, as this has had a lot of work done on it, and the access is even less than on a normal car, so it's a bit of a challenge. Anyway, we'll play around with that hopefully in the next few days. I can get Alin to come for a couple of hours, and we'll be able to get the rear fenders bolted up 100%. So I'm really happy with the look of that. It's kind of looking like a car again. The doors will be next, though I have that issue with the window glass, so I'm going to have to source window glass fairly quickly in order to keep this project moving along. I still have the bottom of the hood to buff. I still have the trunk lid to put on at some point, but we're going to do that a little bit later. I still have to buff the trunk lid on the inside and out as well. We got plenty of stuff to do, but I don't want that door glass to slow me down, so we're going to have to source that pretty quickly. Like I mentioned before, we're going to have to get it out for tint and hopefully get it back fairly quickly. So that's it for now, guys. That will be the update for tonight. I think it's looking pretty good, as I'd mentioned. I'm pretty happy with the paint match so far, although it's going to be hard to tell until I actually get it out in direct sun, but it is looking pretty darn good in the garage. Don't look at that. Anyway, all right, happy. It has been really hot out in the garage, so I've been lucky to do any work whatsoever, and probably lost about 10 pounds over the last couple days being out here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Anyway, we'll leave it with that, and we'll get back out here tomorrow after work, and we'll try to continue working on the passenger side fender. Like I said, I haven't got too far on that. I've got a couple of fasteners in, but that's pretty much about it. So that will be the next step on the car to get this one fitting a little bit better. We'll get the beading in. I didn't show you the beading here. The fenders are not cranked right down yet, so the beading still will move in the channel if need be. I think that looks good. And for those of you who might not know, the beading on these cars is supposed to be painted body color. My preference is to keep it chrome, or in this case stainless steel. That's my preferred look on this car, so we're going to go with that. Anyway, we're happy with that. Alright, I'll stop rambling and I'll let you go. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, and thanks for subscribing.